Hello and welcome to Your TV's Your Vote local provincial candidates debate for the riding of Nipissing. My name is Clark Heupel. Today we have 3 of 4 major party candidates for the Nipissing riding. Incumbent Progressive Conservative candidate Vic Fedeli, New Democrat Party candidate Lauren Mick, Green Party candidate Colton Chaput. Over the next hour, we encourage a healthy debate on the most pressing issues facing Ontarians, more specifically Northern Ontarians in Nipissing. At this point, we'll get to our opening bios and opening statements from the 3 of 4 candidates in our studio. Lauren Mick is your Ontario NDP candidate for Nipissing. Raised in Mattawa, Lauren is twice elected to Town Council, where he serves as the chair of the Library Board and the vice chair of the Conservation Authority Board. A graduate of Canadore College and Nipissing University, Lauren is a chef at the local hospital. He is currently pursuing a graduate degree in counseling psychology. An advocate for vibrant communities, Lauren is also vice chair of Dreamcoat Fantasy Theatre's Board of Directors. Lauren, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Thank you very much. As mentioned, my name is Lauren Mick, and I'm the Ontario NDP candidate for Nipissing District in this upcoming election. Born and raised in Mattawa, like mentioned, I went to high school in North Bay. I attended Canadore College and Nipissing University, and which got me my job at the Mattawa Hospital. I'm here today. I decided to put my name forward because I do believe that we need to get back to what the provincial government is responsible for, which I believe is healthcare, education, housing, and highway safety. And I hope to remind us all of that in this upcoming election. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren. We go next to Victor Fedeli. He is a lifelong entrepreneur. His business experience led his firm, Fedeli Corporation, to be ranked in the top 50 best places to work in Canada. It also served him well when elected to 2 terms as North Bay Mayor. Vic is serving his 4th term as Nipissing MPP, currently as Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade. He is married to local humor writer Patty and is always seen in one of his trademark yellow ties, as you see on your screen here. Vic, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in this evening. Look forward to a really interesting hour. I can tell you, going door to door, we've never seen a more proud group of Canadians come forward. Look, I was in Washington with the Premier last week. We're fighting the biggest threat we've ever seen in our country's history, the Donald Trump tariffs. These are going to be absolutely devastating to our economy, and we need to be prepared for that. People need to understand how very serious this is and just how devastating these tariffs are going to be to our affordability, to our jobs, and to our economy. So I look forward to having this conversation throughout the next hour. And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Vic. We move now to our 3rd and final candidate present here today. Colton Chaput has been a strong community leader in Nipissing for many years. Whether through volunteer efforts, community advocacy, for fundraising, he's always ready to pitch in for his community in his spare time. As a nursing student, he has a unique understanding of our healthcare system, and once he receives his RN designation, he plans to practice in the North Bay area to help our community stay healthy. He enjoys hiking, swimming, and spending time outdoors. Colton, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Ani, bonjour, hello, and thank you for tuning in, everybody. As a 4th-year nursing student, I can tell you that our healthcare system is in crisis. Decades of underfunding have led to staffing shortages, overcrowding, and a lack of primary care providers. I can also tell you that the patients I see and the community members I talk to are struggling to make ends meet. Housing, groceries, medications, clothing, all are too expensive, and the people are tired of it. The main parties are content to stay the course while the people suffer. But the Greens are doing things differently. Our plan for fairness puts people first and will bring a much needed change to our province and our riding. As a passionate Nipissing citizen, born and raised in North Bay, I will listen to the people of our community and work with you to build a better and fairer future for our riding. Thank you.
Thank you, Colton. Liam McGarry is the Liberal Party candidate in Nipissing. We sent McGarry an invitation to participate in this debate. We did not receive a response. With that said, we will go to our first question, a video question. Donna Backer is the president and CEO of the North Ban District Chamber of Commerce.
With the uncertainty and fear of looming tariffs, businesses and everyday consumers are facing rising costs that could impact economic stability. These added costs will put pressure on small businesses, local industries, and the broader economy, making it harder for communities to thrive. Given these challenges, what concrete measures will you and your party implement to support businesses to mitigate the financial burden while also balancing the province's financial responsibilities?
And the first answer will go to Vic Fideli. Thank you very much, and thank you, Donna, for the question. Look, when I watched the news this weekend, I heard the Liberal Premier of Newfoundland say these are the most existential threats we'll ever see in the country. We need a plan to be able to fight these tariffs. As I said, I was in Washington last week working with the Premier on exactly this solution. First of all, in Ontario, we're going to treat this much like the COVID threats that we had only a few years ago. We will have funds established for families. We will have funds established for businesses. We're going to work, first of all, to try to stop the threats, but it's a very erratic. They're on again, they're off again, they come, they go. Whether it happens in the next day, the next week, or the next month, we are never going to leave anybody behind. We'll have all of the supports in place for families, for businesses, and for you and your loved ones.
Thank you for that response. For the next answer, we go now to Colton Chaput.
Yeah, well, I find that interesting to hear that the progressive conservative government is going to take care of you when they've abandoned you in the middle of this crisis, while the other parties were ready to work, roll up our sleeves, and work with them to address these tariffs. Our Green Party puts forward a plan. We would implement immediately a task force to address these threats because, as we can agree, these are unacceptable threats and they are very unpredictable. So we need a plan to address this. We would invest in hard-hit industries across the province, but specifically those who are targeted by these tariffs, such as the forest industry. We would create a tax credit for investment in businesses to spark investment into those businesses, and we would create a procurement strategy for the government of Ontario to buy Ontario and buy Canada and show a united front against the United States.
Thank you, Colton. And now to Lauren Mick.
Thank you very much. You know, I think we are right to be worried about Trump and these tariffs coming. You know, things are unaffordable as they are already. But the reality is, you know, we know Trump. We've known Trump for 7 years. We know his uncertainty. And I believe if the Conservative government were the ones to carry us through these threats, they would have started 7 years ago. You know, building this tariff-proof economy isn't cutting social services. You know, we need a strong people to have a strong economy. You know, and, you know, I don't believe that Ford is the one to bring us through this, right? You know, I think it's the bare minimum of a premier. It is their bare minimum of their job to stand up against threats from tariffs and our neighbors to the south. And like, again, we knew Trump was coming. We knew Trump, we've known Trump for a while now. Should be no surprise.
And we'll now open it up for a healthy debate. If anybody wishes to add some more comments, you're welcome to do so now.
I think I'd like to start, Clark, if you don't mind. You know, we're working very hard on interprovincial trade. As trade minister, I've been on that committee for 6 years, and we've seen so many of the barriers dropped. And I think this is exactly the catalyst that is needed by the other provinces. We're looking, because of what we realize is so many of our eggs are in the U.S. basket, that in the last year alone, we opened up Ontario to 137 companies from around the world, landed in Ontario, invested $11 billion, hired 12,200 people. That's the kind of activity we need year over year over year.
And Colton and Lauren, you're welcome to jump in at any time.
Yeah, I can jump in there. I would like to ask Mr. Fideli, as you said, this is some great work that you've been doing in your role as the minister. So do you agree with the timing of this election? Is it appropriate to call an election during a trade war?
Oh, absolutely. As I say, I was with the Premier just last week in Washington as we met with senior executives. This is so important that we align our term with President Trump's 4-year term. That's the absolute importance of doing this election right at this moment. Of course, we've been getting our work done on the fighting of the tariffs. You've seen all of the work that we rolled out. The Premier met with all 13 premiers together, along with the federal government. I've been in meetings in Toronto throughout this campaign as Trade Minister and as Economic Development Minister with all of my counterparts from across the province. Nothing has let up.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Fidelli. But all of these, funding announcements and trading deals, if they were working, we wouldn't be in the situation we are in at this point, right? 1 in 5 families in Nipissing are food insecure, right? We don't have money. Things are already unaffordable. Grocery prices are through the roof. If these tactics were working that the Conservative government has been putting in place for the last 7 years, we wouldn't be scrambling to address this issue as we are now. We wouldn't be need to calling useless elections, wasteful elections. We would be set up and ready to go.
Well, it's hard to say to them. There's also 1 million new jobs created since we were elected. So obviously the fact that we've lowered taxes for families, never ever raised a tax since we've been in government, that has put over 1 million people to work since we got elected.
And how are our property taxes here in Nipissing, Mr. Fidelli? I would like to ask because maybe the province hasn't been raising taxes, but it seems like our property taxes here in our very own riding that we should be working so hard to uplift are through the roof because of aggressive downloading of costs. But I would like to also add that the Green Party has a plan to lower taxes for lower and middle class families, households making less than $100,000 and individuals making less than $65,000 will have their taxes cut, and we will ask the wealthy to pay just a little more to pay their fair share.
Well, you can take up the local taxes with your local municipal councillors. There are some here in this room. You can check that out, but I can tell you when we first got elected, we lowered the provincial share of those local property taxes by $450 million. That's each and every year. That's part of the $8 billion that we've lowered taxes in Ontario since we were elected.
We're going to move on to our next question. Appreciate that. This next question very much tied into that conversation. The cost of housing in Ontario is rising rapidly, and many Ontarians are struggling to find affordable options. People in Nipissing are also feeling squeezed out of the housing market. What policies will you put in place to ensure housing is affordable for all? And we'll go to Colton for the first response.
Yeah, I mean, the Greens have been clear. We have a fully costed platform available on our website that anyone can go look at. And you will see that we are planning to implement 250,000 affordable housing units across the province. And 60,000 of those affordable housing units will be supportive housing, as we call it, with wraparound services for people with complex need. And how we're going to be doing that is that we are going to be putting in place partnerships with nonprofits and co-ops to build on the existing systems that they already have in place, but it's not enough. We have been hearing this all over. There is not enough affordable housing. People can't afford their rent. We need to do something. We need to finally make a change, and we need to invest in affordable housing across the province and continue to renew the existing contracts that exist for affordable housing.
Second response from Lauren Mick.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. I'm seeing it more and more knocking on doors during this campaign where the older parents would come to the door and they would talk to me and talk about affordability and housing costs and how they're being pushed out of their own house. And then their adult children would come around the corner and speak with me, and then their grandchildren would come around and speak to me, right? And I'm not saying it's shameful to live with family. I think that's fantastic, but they don't have the choice to move out if they wanted to. They maybe they moved home during the COVID thing to be close to family, but they do not have the choice. They cannot afford. They've been priced out of leaving their family home. Right, and not only has the Conservative government done nothing to address this, they have removed safety nets put in place to protect people like this, such as rent control. And the Ontario NDP does have a plan in place to reinstate some of these protections.
And now to Vic Fidelli.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, we have already removed the HST on the new rental units that are being built here in Ontario and here in North Bay and in the riding of Nipissing. Specifically in North Bay, the fact that we have a Building Faster fund for communities to help clear the way, remove your development charges, reduce the barriers that are causing builders not to be able to build. The city did so well, they surpassed their target here in North Bay and were awarded the $400,000 bonus for surpassing the target. We just gave them $1.9 million before the election was called, and that is to open up 13 acres on Metcalfe Street in North Bay, where they'll blast the rock, level it off, put sewer and water in, and build 13 acres worth of homes, which will put them on their way to getting another bonus of $400,000 this year and another bonus next year.
And you don't need my go-ahead. You're welcome to join in for an open debate. Anyone is welcome to add their thoughts now.
Yeah, I'd like to speak with the renters of our riding, because as Lauren mentioned, there is it's a tough market out there for renters. You know, I myself am a renter, and you know, prices are through the roof. But you've also got, you know, bad acting landlords who are, you know, not exactly supporting their renters. But you've also got renters who aren't able to, you know, pay rent, or there's issues there too. So one of the things we're proposing is a complete reform of the landlord-tenant board, so that we go from 1 year wait times to 1 month wait time, so you get a fair trial for issues when it comes to renting. But we are also planning on implementing rent control and a vacant unit tax on any vacant units, because those units need to be ready to go for our renters. We need to be ready to go on housing. More supply means the prices will be able to go down finally after so long in this affordability.
Just to piggyback, Colton, you know, I do believe that you're hitting the nail on the head with, you know, we need to be focusing on renters, right? You know, if these tax cuts, you know, and incentives for developers were working, then we wouldn't be in this crisis that we're in. You know, again, the Conservative government has had 7 years to fix this, and the crisis has gotten worse. Homelessness in Nipissing is at an all-time high, right? You know, we don't need more incentives for rich developers. You know, and don't get me wrong, I'm pro-development, absolutely, but we need to help the average family who is struggling to pay rent. We need to help those adult children get out of the family home. We need to make space for the parents of these adult children to move on.
Jump in.
Mm-hmm.
The rent control that both have talked about, remember when rent controls were put in the last time by the previous NDP government, what happened? Every builder stopped building units, and that added to the problem. We had a horrible lack of product. As soon as we were able to take them off, we've started to see products being built again.
Because they couldn't gouge the people. Because that's why they didn't see a huge profit. We need to be looking, instead of profits, we need to be looking at people with affordable housing.
I would say again to you, your party has had 7 years to fix this problem, and it's gotten worse. So I don't know how we would take that.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're moving on to our next question, which is via a video recording. Tracy Clement is from Tracy's Heart and Hands Mobile Outreach. She takes it upon herself to help the vulnerable people in our community.
There is a lot of spending on what we all know as Band-Aid solutions. Well needed, we know largely what we do is simply at best a quick fix. Are there any out-of-the-box strategies that are being entertained, especially in the largely neglected north in Ontario?
And we're going to Lauren Mick for the first response.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hearing, you know, questions of affordability. Is that what she's saying? You know, this isn't the Nipissing that I grew up in, right? You drive down Main Street North Bay, you drive down Main Street Mattawa, any of the surrounding communities, and you see it. You see people struggling. You see the housing and homelessness. You see addictions, you see drug use, right? You know, this is not the Nipissing that I grew up in. This is not the Nipissing of 10, 20 years ago, right? And this is, you know, a manifestation of the clear gaps in the social support systems that the Conservative government seems to be turning a blind eye to, right? If the Conservative government was working what they're doing, you know, we wouldn't be seeing this, right? We need to start addressing issues upstream before they end up downstream in the emergency departments.
You're next.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Thank you. That's it's a big part of why we're here today. We are proposing a housing first approach to helping those in need, because they need our help to be able to get raised up out of a tough situation. So the housing first approach is something I've actually learned about in nursing school, is that our main priority is getting a roof over their head first, with services that are easily accessible, so that we are addressing their every need, so that we can assist them as best we can through a very difficult situation. So that would look like having housing units that would have wraparound services like medical attention, mental health services, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, counseling, all of this stuff, and their addiction services all under one roof, so that it is accessible to them and they can get the help they need.
Mr. Philly?
Thank you very much. Well, I would start by acknowledging that our government is the first government in the history of the country to have a ministry of mental health and addictions. We know that people are needing help. We have, and I can tell you, I have fought successfully for 100 new units to be built, 60 on Castle Street, 16 and 24 on Chippewa Street, new units on Commercial Avenue for Canadore College. We've been fighting very hard and very successfully in getting these units, getting the wraparound services that are within these units. This is a time where we need to continue to invest in all of the homelessness issues that we have. We have continued. We just gave our DSAB, the local service, social service board, several $100,000 to be able to accommodate even more, and there'll be more announced by them in the coming days.
And we're still waiting for that opening of the Addictions Treatment Center beds on Lakeshore Drive. Is there an update to that? They were needed years ago.
So the 53 beds, the units on Lakeshore Drive, the Ontario Health has canceled their contract with Canadore College on the 53 beds, and while those beds will remain here in North Bay, not at that site, they will be operated by both the CMHC, the Canadian Mental Health Association, and the North Bay Regional Health Centre. So I call it the Heart Hub 1.0. Those 53 beds remain here with complete wraparound services.
Thanks for an update on that. We're moving on. More healthcare discussion. Ontario's healthcare system is under significant strain with long wait times and a shortage of healthcare workers. The North Bay Regional Health Centre has average wait times of 4 hours and 24 minutes, with the longest wait time at 10 hours and 37 minutes during a spot check last week. What are your specific plans to address these issues in the next 4 years? And we're going first to Colton.
Yeah, thank you, Clark. It's really an important discussion that we are having right now. I can't stress this enough as a nursing student. I've been talking to my friends, in the nursing community here in North Bay and the Nipissing riding. I've been talking to the healthcare workers, the PSWs, the doctors, and I've been hearing all about what's going on at the North Bay Hospital. We've got overcrowding. We've got waiting rooms being transferred into patient care areas. Nurses aren't being paid a fair wage, and it's just so hard to get staffing in that area. We need staff to take care of that. So our plan that we put forward is that we will recruit 3,500 new doctors so that everyone in the province has a family doctor or primary care provider in the next 3 to 4 years. We will increase funding to rural hospitals, and we will continue to support people in getting the health care that they need.
And Vic, you're next in the response.
Thank you very much. Well, I can talk a little bit provincially and then a little bit locally. Provincially, we've hired, since we were elected 7 years ago, 100,000 new nurses. There are 30,000 more nurses in schools right at this very moment. We've hired 15,000 new doctors, 25,000 new public support, personal support workers. 90% of all citizens have primary care, but there's more to do. There's way more to do. We need to know that. In our emergency rooms, we have taken 1 million patients out of emergency rooms by providing pharmacists with the ability to treat the 19 most common things. So you don't need to go to an emergency room for pink eye or nausea. You can go to your pharmacist. But mostly here in town, amongst the $60 million that we have provided, just this last year alone to the Regional Health Center, is a brand new 40-bed mini hospital.
Thank you, Vic. That's time. To Lauren Mick, healthcare wait times.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless of your income or where you're living, we all use the same emergency room, right? And I think that access to quality healthcare is truly one of the things that makes Canada, Canada, and anything else is un-Canadian. If the conservative patchwork approach to healthcare were working, I wouldn't be serving dinner trays to patients admitted to the tub room in the Mattawa Hospital. I wouldn't see people driving hours on hours to our emergency room in Mattawa because they're desperate to see a doctor in a timely manner. Right, it's clear that this isn't working, and I hear 60 million thrown at the North Bay Hospital, but it is still a funding cut if you take into account the cuts that have happened already. Right, these are election bandwagon or fanfaring that are trying to hide up the cuts to healthcare that have already happened.
For our next question, we go now to Deborah Hickey from the Calendar and District Food Bank.
What are you prepared to do to help the smaller food banks? Can we count on you to provide real support for the smaller banks so that we can continue to feed and support the vulnerable in our communities?
And Vic, you get first response on this.
I want to begin by responding to something that was said. When I hear the word health cuts, think about the fact that when we took office, health budget was $60 billion. This morning, it's $85 billion. That's $25 billion more. I don't see the word cut in there. That's every single year, year after year after year, the health budget has been expanding, not reducing. So when it comes to our local food banks, I would first say thank you very much to Calendar. I've been in there many times. I know exactly the kind of the work that they do and the kindness that they show to people. Our government will never leave anybody behind. We will continue to invest in all of our support services for all of the people who are either using the food banks or where we're trying to continue to make life more affordable for all of these families.
And now to Lauren Mick, what will your party do to help support smaller food banks supporting those needing their services?
Absolutely. Food bank use in the Nipissing region is at an all-time high. They're having trouble keeping food on the shelves. And the way I see this, it is another example of this patchwork approach to social services showing in front of us, right? If the supports and the services and the funding that the Conservative government was working, we wouldn't need to rely on these food banks so much. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely support these volunteers and these initiatives, and they are part of our society at this point. But again, it's another example. If the Conservative government did care about housing and homelessness and food insecurity, 1 in 5 families in Nipissing are food insecure, then they would have fixed it. They've had 7 years of a majority government to address this issue, and nothing has been done.
Colton, you're next on the question concerning food banks.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question, and thank you for all of the work that you're doing to help those in need in your communities. Make no mistake, as you said, the small food banks are being left behind, but it's so important what you're doing, so thank you for what you're doing. A green government would support continuing to increase the funding so that there is actual support services like your food banks in our communities to help those in need. But we would also take an approach to address this affordability crisis. It's a situation that we are in and we need to fund those food banks, but we need to start looking at how we can reduce the reliance on them by increasing minimum wage to $20 an hour, by doubling the ODSP rates, and by looking at ways that we can make life more affordable for the people in this province and not watch the rich get rich.
As mentioned off the top of this debate, there are 6 candidates in the Nipissing riding. We have a submitted video from Michelle Lashbrook, who is Libertarian candidate here in Nipissing.
I'm here today with a simple but powerful message. Freedom of choice is the foundation of a strong and prosperous Ontario. Our province thrives when individuals, not the government, are empowered to make decisions that affect their lives, their families, and their futures. The Ontario Libertarian Party is committed to 4 fundamental principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, mutual respect, and fairness. Today, these principles are being eroded by government overreach. Too often, our choices are limited by excessive regulation, bureaucratic control, and political interference. Whether it's healthcare, education, property rights, or personal autonomy, our ability to make our own decisions is under attack. We say enough is enough. Imagine an Ontario where parents can choose the best education for their children without being forced into a one-size-fits-all system, where patients decide how to manage their healthcare with access to both public and private providers, where small businesses and entrepreneurs thrive without being crushed by high taxes and endless red tape, where citizens keep more of their hard-earned money and are not forced into government services they don't use or want. This vision is not a dream, it's a plan for real change. To get there, we will repeal laws that prevent competition in healthcare, education, and public services, end government mandates that limit personal autonomy, including vaccine and mask mandates, reform taxation to ensure fairness and accountability, restore property rights so individuals and businesses are protected from government overreach, hold politicians accountable with recall legislation and public referendums on taxation. This isn't just about politics. It's about your right to shape your own future. It's about the freedom to choose what's best for you, your family, and your community. If you believe in these principles, stand with us. Together, we can create an Ontario where freedom, opportunity, and prosperity belong to everyone. Let's reclaim our rights. Let's restore choice. Let's build a better Ontario together. Thank you.
That was Michelle Lashbrook, Libertarian candidate in Nipissing. For our next question, Ontario Northland, one of the region's largest employers and transportation providers, is planning to bring back the Northlander passenger train in the near future. The service will travel directly through North Bay and surrounding areas. The train service was discontinued back in 2012 by the then Liberal government, citing high cost and low demand. With a $75 million investment aimed at reviving the rail service, do you believe this is a wise use of taxpayer money? And how would your party ensure that the service remains sustainable for years to come? We go first to Colton.
Yeah, and I'd like actually to personally thank Mr. Fideli for all of the hard work on the Northlander. This is truly something that is vital to our northern communities and to connecting Ontario. The Green Party believes in connected communities, but it also believes in connecting those communities in between them through intercity transportation. So investments like this to be able to connect the cities and the rural communities to other parts of our province are going to do wonders to build the economy and to build a more connected Ontario. So we will continue to invest in the Northlander and projects of the like to continue expanding that intercity transportation. We would also create a safer highway system with bus lanes so that there are quick ways to get between the cities that you know and you love and to visit your family.
Vic, you're next.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to the community for all of your support in the return of the Northlander. You know, we all remember when this was pulled out in 2012, March of 2012, and I will say I am the only Northern member of provincial parliament who stood up in the legislature and voted against this. No other party, no one else stood up to vote against it. They only stood to vote either for the tearing down of the Northlander or sat on their hands, one or the other. $149 million has already been invested in buying these rail cars. They're being built now, and they will be delivered sometime at the end of 2025 for service in 2026. $75 million in shelters and stations is being distributed right now, and those are being built, and millions more will be spent on new track.
Lauren Mick, concerning the Ontario Northland Transportation Commission and passenger rail.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to hear that the Northlander is coming back. I have some very fond memories as a kid heading down to Toronto. with my family. My mom would attend conferences and usually around the same time as the Santa Claus parade, right? So it was really exciting. But again, so the Northlander, Mr. Fideli, you've been campaigning on this for the last 3 elections, right? Where is it? You could tell me that it's coming tomorrow, and I don't think I would believe you. We've been hearing this for years and years and years. You know, Clark, I'm glad you asked for the update on the treatment center. Again, that was, I think, last election's campaign promises. Where is it? As far as I know, it is not here, right? I've been elected to council for 6 years now. When I was first elected, this ring of fire was the next big thing, and I'm sure Mr. Fideli will tell us about that later, right? But where is it, right? Where is the treatment center? Where's the Northlander? Where is the ring of fire? And you know, I'm just starting to think that I can't believe it's a little bit of talk and not a lot of walk.
There is an open debate portion. With that being said, we're going to go to Vic first. If you could kindly respond to what caused the low ridership back in the early 2010s, and how will this be different in the mid-2020s?
I think if you look at the fact that the Northlander was here for more than 100 years, we got pretty complacent as the North, just expecting that it was always going to be there. So when it got pulled out, and we fought so hard to bring it back, and you know, in our first election, after which we ordered the rail cars, these things don't just appear magically overnight. They take years to build. This is $149 million worth of rail cars. And I think the fact that we are going to get brand new rail cars with public consultation that has been done to figure out which communities it should stop in, which are the best times that it should leave to make it more convenient for everybody so we can raise the use of the Northlander. I think Ontario Northland is doing a phenomenal job. The men and women there are doing a phenomenal job of understanding what went wrong over 100 years and how you can guarantee that this will be in place. But there's still, again, a lot of track to replace that was torn out by the Liberals, a lot of work that has to be done yet.
And Lauren and Colton, either of you can jump in.
Yeah, I think part of the low ridership may just be, you know, affordability. So I think we can all agree that there is an affordability crisis. We may have different ways of addressing it, but the Green Party are going to take things seriously and take immediate actions to address the affordability crisis so that people can go back to traveling. You know, I have fond memories of traveling with my family, and I look forward to be able to continue to do that, but not everyone can afford, you know, the ridership fees of taking the Northlander. So I look forward to seeing, you know, is there going to be some kind of plan for low-income families to be able to use the Northlander, and are we going to actually be addressing the affordability crisis for those families as the Green Party has promised to do?
Could the Northlander be subsidized?
Oh, it's good.
Even further so?
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be subsidized in a tremendous amount. We're going to be investing, you know, 150, 225, probably hundreds more of millions in track. I mean, this is a major investment. You can't get that back by charging fares. It's never going to be able to be self-sustainable. It needs to be heavily subsidized by government. But it's something that we need to be doing, and I've convinced the Premier to do it, and we're doing it. It's going to take another short while to get the cars here, and another short while to replace the track. We can't do it in the middle of the winter. And don't forget, COVID was in the middle of all of that as well.
We're going to jump tracks to another topic. Class sizes in Ontario schools have increased, and many parents and teachers are concerned about the quality of education their children are receiving. In 23-24, only 61% of grade 3 students, 50% of grade 6 students, and just over 50% of grade 9 students met provincial standards in mathematics. What is your party's plan to improve education in the province of Ontario? And this one goes to Vic first.
Well, thank you very much. When we were elected, the education budget was $23 billion. Today, it is $29 billion. It's up an additional $6 billion. We've seen the hiring of 7,500 educators since we were elected, plus an additional 9,000 other staff since we were elected. We continue to see spending in education higher per student spending. It's up over $300 per student this year over last year. We will continue to build schools. We have 228 schools under construction right now, 100,000 new spaces for students, 8,000 new childcare spaces. That compares to the previous government who closed 600 schools and caused this class shortage.
And to Lauren Mick. concerning education.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Clark. You know, children these days are becoming more and more diverse and needing more and more diverse supports, right? And we see it in the classrooms, and the Ontario NDP does have a plan to reinstate these supports that were kind of cut in past budgets. And you know, for example, autism support, language support, access to social welfare services. You know, but I'm hearing that we're giving more money than ever, right? But these budget increases do not account for inflation, right? And they do not account for just the fact that it isn't working, right? We are not supporting our support staff in the classrooms. Teachers are getting burnt out, right? And if we do not support our teachers, they're taking their time away from students to, you know, to give special attention to students who need a little bit of help. We need to support our support staff, and I think the current government is not doing that.
And Colton Chaput, regarding mathematics testing scores being near the 50 percentile.
Yeah, well, I think it's an indication of the fact that we're really trying to force learning systems onto our students. I think because of that larger class size, there's less individual attention, like Lauren said, where they're not getting the individualized learning that we need for our students to thrive. So here's what the Greens are going to do about it. We're going to reduce class sizes. We're going to increase funding per student. We're going to invest in the educators, so that's early childhood educators, that's the teachers, that's all the staff that are working in our schools that are doing such an amazing job but just want some help, want more reinforcement so that we can give more attention to our children. We are going to fund mental health and safety staff in those hospitals, and we are going to, as Lauren also mentioned, increase funding for students with complex needs, such as increasing funding for Autism Ontario.
Thank you, Colton. Open debate. Are those mathematics scores something to be settled with? Vic, we'll go to you.
Well, there's no question, and that's why we've hired 7,500 new nurses, and that's why we've increased the education budget by more than 25%, which is far in excess of inflation. You know, this is something that we continue to invest in. We continue to build schools. We continue to repair schools so that these students have a good learning environment. We've seen here in Nipissing almost every school get some level of upgrade so that the students have a great place to be trained.
And this is an open portion. Anyone can jump in.
Yeah, I want to speak to those students and the youth. You are the future. And a Green government would continue to invest in your learning so that you can thrive in the things. Everyone has so many different talents. It's about unlocking those talents. It's about unlocking, you know, these extra staff that we need to create individualized learning for you. So to the students and the youth who are listening today, we see you, and you are the future of our province, and you're going to be such a big part of the strong green economy.
Lauren, can education be one size fits all?
No, absolutely not. Thank you for, I just want to add, you know, and was it not the, you know, our current Conservative government who sued our teachers, right? You know, that doesn't seem like support. You know, if we did care about education, we would be supporting our teachers, we'd be supporting our support staff, you know, and we keep saying throwing this money at education, throwing this money at healthcare, right? But it is not enough. It's clear an example. You know, I ask people at home, when the snow starts to melt in the spring, ask your child, where does the janitor put the buckets to catch the leaks in the roof? And I guarantee each one of their kids will say, I know exactly where that is, and I know exactly where that bucket goes, right? You know, we need to start investing not only in support, we need to start investing in education infrastructure, which our platform does include and has laid out, right? You know.
And I would also like to jump in there.
Just very quickly?
Yeah, our schools are in a state of disrepair. There's a recent report that said most of our schools in Ontario are under the state of good repair. We would invest money to bring those schools back up to the standard so that students can have a safe place to learn.
Well, we've invested several $1 billion just last summer alone in upgrading schools. We're very clear to advertise throughout all of Nipissing as to which schools got those great repairs, and thank you for doing those.
And that's kind of the problem, though. The government committed to sending out checks for $200, which is a Band-Aid solution. You know, that's great for now, but that money could have been better spent on bringing more of those schools, bringing money into healthcare, and spending money on more.
Quick response, very quick.
That is because the carbon tax has increased the cost of groceries so wildly that money belongs to you. It belongs to families. A family of 5, $1,000, I don't think they take that very lightly.
We have to move on. Scott Mooney represents the Ontario Party in the riding of Nipissing. We go now to a submitted video from the Mooney campaign.
We are at a crossroads here in Ontario and in Canada where the decisions we make today will be affecting generations to come. The crisis that we see right here in our own area is what's happening on our roads. I've been in transportation for many years, and we are seeing such a high number of incidents, bad accidents, highways closed. It's almost every day we're seeing a closure along our Trans-Canada highways. And we didn't have this before. We need to be getting to the bottom of that. Stop putting Band-Aids on the problem and getting to the bottom of what's leading to this. We're not seeing that. All we're seeing right today is Band-Aids. You know, we have police officers being sent out to stop vehicles, give tickets. That's a Band-Aid. That's not solving the problem. Healthcare. A few years ago, we had thousands of nurses and doctors and support staff fired over a vaccine status. And now we have a government that wants to tell us there's a crisis and we have to do something about it. You created this problem. Easy solution. All those nursing staff, they're still out there. They've had to go and find other jobs. It's an easy solution. There's a lot of things that's been going on in our provincial government, and there's been zero accountability. We have law enforcement officers that are being penalized, persecuted for doing what's right. Yet we have the same career where there's people that are doing things wrong. There's no accountability. We need change in Ontario. We need to get back to the basics. Basic fundamentals of what this country was built on. And with that, just a small taste of where I am. I'm asking for your vote, your support on February 27th.
That is Scott Mooney representing the Ontario Party. Now we're going to springboard off Mr. Mooney's discussion to our candidates here in studio. He brought up highway safety. In the north, in the winter, seemingly fatalities each week, whether you look north, south, east, or west of us. What will your party do to improve highway safety so we stop losing lives? We're going to go to Lauren Mick first.
Absolutely, thank you. So we all use the highways in the north. It's a big part of our life. We use them to get to work. We use them to get to school. You know, there's no getting around using these highways. You know, highway safety is really important to me. In Mattawa, we just celebrated the 25th anniversary of you know, the tragic incident that kind of birthed the Let's Remember Adam movement. But I do believe we need to take things a little more seriously, and the Conservative government has taken the trucker driver training and the highway maintenance out of the hands of the MTO and privatized it, you know, essentially taking any sort of liability off of the province. And the Ontario NDP government plan to first and foremost reinstate the truck driver training and highway maintenance back to the MTO.
Vic, you're next.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, we're putting $600 million into northern roads just this year, $150 million into winter maintenance. We're adopting the 2+1, and you'll hear about that, so let me just give a very brief explanation. you have a 2-lane highway between North Bay and Timmins. For many parts of that, that will become a 3-lane highway. And for portions of it, going north will be 2 lanes and coming south 1, and then other portions coming south will be 2 lanes and going north will be 1. So it's a 3-lane highway that'll switch back and forth. It's a European model that we're adopting, and we're very excited about doing that. We've also been very pleased to be able to, through regulation, reduce the road cleaning time by 4 hours in the winter. You know, I've said this in many topics, there's always more to do, but we know that we're paying a lot of attention to these various means to make sure that our roads are the safest they can possibly be.
We're going to go to Colton Chaput.
Okay. Well, the Green Party would invest in our highways. I think we all know that it can be quite dangerous driving on our highways. I myself have made those trips, you know, between different, and it is quite difficult sometimes, and they're not always the most safe. We see all these accidents, we see all this happening, so we need to continue to invest in our highways, and we need to make sure that they are safe and that they are well maintained. I do actually really enjoy the 2+1 system is a really great plan, and the Green Party would continue to support that. I would continue to advocate that for the North. We can always, as Mr. Fideli said, we can always do more. We can always look at more. So that's why I would propose that we reach out to the MTO and say, look at more. You know, that's not enough. Let's keep looking and keep investing in Northern highway safety.
We have reached the time of this debate to go to closing statements, and we're going to receive 2 minutes of closing remarks from each candidates in our studio in reverse order, which we received the opening statement. So that brings us back to Colton Chaput. Your closing statements, you have 2 minutes.
All right. I'm proud to stand behind this podium and to represent the needs of the people of Nipissing. I'm so lucky to call this riding home and to be able to use my voice as a voice for change in our community. Thank you to the viewers for tuning in to this evening, and thank you to CoachCo and YourTV for organizing this debate. Today, you heard 3 views for the future of our riding. Most were unoriginal and presented the same problems the same solutions to our old problems. Those haven't worked before, and they won't work now. I presented a plan, an innovative and fair plan for our riding and for our province. A plan that puts people first. We will build affordable housing. We will end legislated poverty. We will take immediate climate action. We will build a strong green economy. We will fix healthcare and end privatization. Together, we can build a brighter, fairer, and greener future for Nipissing. And if elected as your next MPP, I promise to listen to the people of our riding and to always fight for the best interests of our community. I understand that some of you may not know that much about the Green Party. So all I ask is this: take the time to go see our fully costed plan for fairness and learn what the Green Party is all about. Reach out to us, ask us your questions, and get informed before marking your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Colton Chaput representing the Green Party of Ontario in Nipissing. We go now to Vic Fideli representing the Progressive Conservatives.
Well, thank you very much for tuning in tonight, and thank you very much for having elected me 4 times as your member of provincial parliament. You know I will continue to work hard for you to continue to represent all of the people of Nipissing. I'm very proud of our record. I'm proud to have fought for you to increase education expenditures. I am proud to have fought for you to increase healthcare spending here in Ontario, but right here in Nipissing. I'm very, very thrilled to see that we have a government that has listened to you about Ontario Northland and is reinstating the Northlander. But more than that, we just brought a $350 million contract to our men and women at Ontario Northland for refurbishing of the GO cars. There's 900 more cars to do, and I will fight for every one of those to come here rather than to Quebec, where the previous government sent them to be repaired. I'm born and raised here. We know each other. You've seen me You always are welcome in my office. You know that we work hard for our families. You know that we work hard for our long-term care facilities. We're thrilled to turn the sod at the 264-bed facility being built at Castleholme, the 160-bed facility being built at Northern Heights, and I can't wait, as your MPP, hopefully, to turn the sod at Canadore College's 160-bed facility. I promised that in the last election, Ontario Northland and long-term care, and that's what I have delivered for you, and I always will deliver for you. And I will continue to work hard should you go to the ballot box in the advance polls on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, or on election day on
That's time.
February 27th.
Thank you, Vic. That is Vic Fideli, Progressive Conservative candidate in the riding of Nipissing. And by sheer luck, Lauren Mick has the final word on this evening, luck of the draw, and you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks, Lauren.
Well, thank you very much. Again, my name is Lauren Mick, and if you'd like to get to know a little bit more about me, please look me up on socials, Facebook, Instagram. I've got a website with the Ontario NDP. You know, and I think here in Nipissing, we've forgotten to hold our provincial representatives accountable, right? We need to get back to the basics. The province is responsible for housing and homelessness, healthcare, education, highways, and all of these are in crisis here in Nipissing. This is not the Nipissing that I grew up in, right? And it's time we get serious with our votes. It's time that we get our voices heard, right? You know, Vic, you could get up here and say, I'm going to give $800 trillion to these issues, pick a number, I don't care, and I would have trouble believing it, right? You've had time, your party has had time to address these issues, and they have failed, right? We are in crisis across the board, right? You know, the Conservative Party, they would privatize anything that wasn't nailed to the floor, right? And I think we need to get serious about what we want out of our province, right? You know, asking Ford and the Conservative government to, you know, protect our jobs and our economy from the uncertainty from down south is like asking the fox to guard the hen house, right? You know, there is time and time again proven fiscal irresponsibility with our tax dollars, and I think enough is enough. I know what families need. I know what workers need. I am one of them. I come from. I was born and raised in Mattawa. I know what Nipissing needs, you know, and we can't afford to have another 4 years of a Conservative government, right? Again and again, we're seeing these upstream problems like housing and homelessness and addictions, you know, that are upstream problems that the province is not addressing, and they are coming downstream, and we are finding them in our emergency rooms. Again, please vote Mick in the upcoming election, because we can't afford not to.
I would like to thank all three gentlemen here present today. Thank you for the healthy debate. Election Day in Ontario is February 27th. We thank you for tuning in to Your TV's Your Vote.